Hello and welcome to the Salesupply podcast. Grab a coffee and get ready to scale.
When Western European countries think about expansion, they usually look west. So Germany looks at Austria and Netherlands, Netherlands look at Belgium and UK, and Italy looks at France and Spain. But almost nobody looks east first. And that might be the most expensive strategic mistake this year. Because right next door there is a region with 100 million customers, region with world-class logistic infrastructure of parcel lockers, region mobile-first payments, a region with some fastest growing e-commerce you ever seen in Europe.
Before we move on, a quick word about one of our partners, helping e-commerce brands expand internationally. Clonable is a Dutch technology company that makes it incredibly easy to clone, translate, and maintain your website or webshop for new international markets. In just minutes, you can launch a fully functional localized version of your site, automatically kept up to date with your original. To celebrate our podcast, Clonable has prepared a special offer exclusively for participants. The first person to react will receive free installation assistance worth 950 euros. All other participants can still benefit from a 50% discount on that same installation service. So, if you're planning to expand to Poland or elsewhere in Central and Eastern Europe, this is a great opportunity to make your online rollout faster, easier, and more cost-effective. You can claim the offer by downloading the material using the link in the description.
This episode is also brought to you in cooperation with Cross-Border Commerce Association, an organization who help to expand internationally to brands and e-commerces.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome in the Salesupply podcast. In this episode, we will talk about why Poland is becoming a natural gateway to CEE, what market opportunities exist across the region, and how Western European merchants can expand east efficiently, profitably, and at scale. And to break this topic down and unpack it from different perspectives, I'm joined today by some fantastic guests. Anna represents Allegro, the leading marketplace in Poland, and works closely with international sellers entering the region. Timo Gerken from Base, who works daily with e-commerce market and sales data across CEE, and Rutger Wong, who's from Salesupply, who supports Western European merchants in cross-border expansion and local customer care. Hello, guys.
Hi, great to be
Hello.
here.
Hello.
Great. Also excited. Hey, maybe you can say a little bit, few sentences about you and what you are doing, why you will be talking about Poland as a good market for expansion. Maybe we can start from Anna.
Sure. So hello again, great to be here. I'm representing Allegro. My name is Anna Juda, and at Allegro, I'm responsible for managing our partners, and that also includes international sellers. So we are interested in serving our customers as wide selection as possible. And a lot of that selection is held by Western brands or brands coming from other regions than Poland. So I'm here today to welcome you to our region and to show that there is a great opportunity to make seizable business in Poland and in CE.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you. Timo, what about you?
Thank you, Damian, and thank you, Anna. Hello, my name is Timo. I'm the managing director for Base in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Base as a company, we're looking back at a proud history of more than 20 years. Base is an operating system that manages your e-commerce setup with more than 1,700 integrations across marketplaces, logistics, fulfillment, WMS, PIM, OMS, and so much more.
Thank you. So last but not least, Rutger.
Thanks, Damien. A very good Dutch pronunciation of my name. And in English, I would say my name is Rutger.
Okay.
Rutger Vonk. So My role within the company Salesupply is business development for the German-speaking countries and also for the Benelux, and helping them, among others, getting to new regions such as CEE. And the company Salesupply offers basically two services. One is native customer care support in 25 plus languages. And the other service that we offer is local fulfillment. And we now have more than 70 warehouses internationally. So in Europe, but also in the US, for example.
Okay,
And
thanks.
yeah, indeed, thanks for the invite. Thanks for being here. And that's it from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Rutger. And as probably you can notice, we and Rutger are from the same company, so it's not an yeah. Let's leave it like that. Okay, and those who don't know me, my name is Damian, and I'm also from Salesupply. But as Rutger is more focused on the Western Europe, that my focus is on mainly on the Poland, Czech, Slovakia, Romania, Hungary. Okay, maybe let's cut the chase and let's get to the to the topic of that meeting. So maybe Timo, if we can start with you. If we look at CE rather than individual countries, what are the strongest growth signal that Western Europe merchants usually underestimate or not familiar with?
That's a very good question. So Western European merchants often underestimate the rapid digital maturity and the unique customer behavior across CEE. They're viewing it as a little bit of a secondary, slower moving market rather than the dynamic high growth region that it is. And the key growth signals frequently overlooked include mobile first, high conversion e-commerce environment, and a booming localized marketplace system, and a highly resilient customer base. So I've broken it down to the four strongest yet often underestimated growth signals in CEE. Number one is the mobile first and the high conversion e-commerce shift that we're seeing at base. And here's an underrated signal, or one of the first ones, is Western firms focus on desktop. CEE customers are leapfrogging to mobile. And they're doing that very fast, with over 40% of transactions already made via mobile devices. Many Western merchants underestimate the speed of the digital adoption, assuming lower internet literacy. And in reality, CEE and in particular nations like Poland, the Czech Republic, they're showing a much faster e-commerce growth than countries in Western Europe. The opportunity is to work with partners like Base that understand the region by heart to ensure like a seamless mobile app experience that can lead to much higher conversion rates than in the traditional, more saturated Western European markets. Sorry. The second element that I have is the power of local marketplaces over D2C. When Western European companies look at markets, they often push for direct to consumers. But what we are seeing is that in CE, it's dominated by powerful regional marketplaces like Allegro with Anna here today, but also with others in other countries. Western merchants often lack awareness that 48% of local merchants rely heavy on these local marketplaces in the CE region. The opportunity here is to leverage partners like us, like Allegro, that are well-connected platforms which provide instant visibility and logistical solutions also to consumers who trust those local known platforms over foreign D2C brands. The third element is a shielding customer behavior and resilience. CE consumers, what we're seeing at base, they're highly adaptable and resilient to economic shocks like inflation, for example. They're currently in a more shielding mode, what we're seeing from the data, and they're seeking security, but they're still actively spending. And their disposable income growth is absolutely significant, even bigger than the Western European markets. Western retailers sometimes mistake those high inflation headlines as a signal to avoid the region. But in reality, wages in the CE market, they're actually outpacing inflation. So retail sales continues to rise. The opportunity here is to focus on products that offer value rather than just low cost, which builds strong trust and long-term brand loyalty. The fourth element that we are seeing is the untapped potential of hybrid logistics and localized service. The demand for flexible and local delivery, like parcel lockers, for example, in Poland, which are very strong, is often overlooked by foreign retailers and merchants, assuming the market is underdeveloped in those areas, which is definitely not the case. Western companies often overestimate the complexity of setting up in CEE. They're underestimating how quickly the infrastructure in CEE has actually caught up and surpassed Western European countries in several areas. The opportunity here for Western European companies who work with companies like us and Allegro is to utilize the local, decentralized or hybrid logistic networks, for example, that include cross-border but also local, which then allows them to faster deliver these cross-continent shippings and strengthening their customers' trust in the process.
Okay, thanks. And regarding the thing you mentioned, the local marketplaces and high adaptation by e-commerce sellers, is it very different from what we can see in the West among the Western merchants, like this marketplace environment?
Yeah, the structure is definitely different. I mean, if you look at Western Europe or the Western markets in general, it's usually Amazon leading the pack, which is absolutely not the case in the CE markets. Amazon is surpassed by Allegro in most of these markets. So there's a different dynamic, there's a different history that Western European merchants also need to adopt if they want to be successful in CE.
All right, thanks. That's really important. I think we're gonna get back to that, especially to the logistic part, because it's also very, very interesting and quite specific. But I would like now to ask Anna, because Anna has a very interesting specialty also, and Allegro as a leading marketplace is in the top of for the Polish merchant as a place to go. So Anna, from Allegro perspective, what kind of EU sellers are most successful when entering the Polish and then the CE markets? Because maybe we need to mention also that Allegro is not only the Poland, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes. So we operate currently in 4 countries, in Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, and Hungary. And I will respond to your question, but maybe just to add shortly to what Timo said. Indeed, we are observing double-digit growths in Poland and CE. So Allegro made 11% growth in 24, whereas when we talk to the colleagues from the Western countries, we know it's rather lower single digit. So that, yeah, definitely I agree with the growth opportunities. When it comes to your question regarding who's the most successful, so in general, I can say that sellers' experience with other marketplaces will have it easy to start on Allegro. So when you look at the requirement that Amazon has for its sellers, so for example, adhering to dispatch times, or indicating EANs for your SKUs, or adhering with some brands to protect laws on Amazon. So the environment at Allegro is pretty similar, though according to sellers it's less restrictive than on Amazon. So I think if someone is experienced selling on other marketplaces like Bol, Amazon, Mercado Libre, I think he'll just have it easier on Allegro. Apart from that, apart from experience with marketplace in general, I would say that sellers who are willing to localize, especially delivery methods, will be very successful. So we have a loyalty and free shipment program Smart on Allegro, and we see that sellers, for example, who adopt that program are far more successful, whereas those who, for example, adopt only one courier method delivery from Germany, because that's a pretty frequent case that some German sellers only apply, for example, one method of delivery, and those who diversify those methods and localize them will be far more successful. And this is especially with regards to delivery. Beyond delivery, there are some smaller things like adjusting content to the local markets, but I don't think those differences are significant. The major one is in delivery methods.
I have one question because it always bothered me a little bit, and good that we can ask. So first thing, because there is a like the common sense wisdom, let's say, that if you are selling on Allegro, you should go over the Allegro Smart, service you have, and
Yes.
maybe you can a little bit elaborate what are the difference if you are selling with Allegro Smart or not, because from what I know and here it's very important. And the second question, because as many other marketplaces, you have your fulfillment solution also, right?
Yes, we do have.
Yeah, exactly. So because maybe you can highlight a little bit more about that. Maybe not just the
Sure.
service, but is it very important to have it, or it's nice to have? How you perceive it also, and how it
Sure.
affects sales. Most important.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yes, Smart is a program that provides free deliveries and returns to customers, and also it has very specific channels that need to be covered, courier and to the box delivery channels, so that customers have the coverage of all the preferred methods. So just to sum up, it's free returns and delivery and the coverage of preferred methods. And we see that that the majority of turnover on Allegro is actually going through the Smart program. When it comes to fulfillment, we do offer such service. It has an amazing performance standard when it comes to Polish benchmarks, because, for example, we for the same day orders, we dispatch items till 9 p.m., which is considered very good for Poland. And this service is mostly provided for sortable goods, so smaller ones. If you sell, large TV sets or bicycles, that service might not be the best for you. Also, in terms of such bulky goods, I would say, customers are sometimes more inclined to wait longer. But if you're selling small sortable goods, where delivery speed factor is important. So, for example, toys are such category where, especially when we are in Q4 and people are ordering gifts for their children, or it's Children's Day, it's super critical. If you're a parent and you didn't get your order delivered on time, you can imagine what will happen.
I know. I have three, so I can imagine. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I highly recommend our fulfillment to sellers who don't have very strong delivery capabilities themselves, whose goods are pretty fast rotating, because our aim is to have fulfillment service, not a storage service. So if you are offering more long tailish goods, that's probably not the best solution. Our fees rise the longer the goods reside within our fulfillment. But if you have pretty fast rotating goods, around 100 days, let's say, and you want to have a service with superior performance standard, then I can highly recommend Allegro's fulfillment.
Okay, thanks for highlighting that. And the e-commerce is usually and the most about the logistic, because faster our customers get the goods, then better, and they need to deliver them. And this brings us to Rutger. I would like to ask you, Rutger, in your experience, what is usually the biggest blocker for Western European merchants in expanding in CEE? Is it logistics, customer care, local expectations, where we have usually flops, or there maybe not not really good estimations on risk?
Yeah, good question. There are multiple blockers, I would state, but let's focus on three that we really feel that need to be tackled. One is that you really have to be aware of the local payment standards. In Poland, you have BLIK, which is mobile payment, and that accounts for over 50% of the transactions. Where in Romania and Bulgaria, you still have a lot of cash on delivery orders. So that's a completely different payment method. And if you don't offer the local king of payment, then it can really be that consumers will abandon the card, right? At the end, which is really something you want to prevent. Secondly, what's something you also see typically in the Central European region, is that there are a lot of automated parcel machines. So instead of delivering to people's homes, they are delivered to those parcel machines. And often merchants struggle to implement this within their Shopify or Magento checkout, or whatever kind of software they use, right? And yet the customers or the consumers, they do prefer that over home delivery. So yeah, there is something that you're missing out on. Then thirdly, it also has to do with trust. So customers in this region are highly in favor of local merchants. And if you don't have the things localized into the native language, or if you don't have a local return address, then it can be seen or perceived as something negative. Like, okay, this is not really a local player where I am getting my products from now. And yeah, that's something that can also lead to less revenue, less conversion.
So, because there is a business temptation, let's say, for example, if I'm from Germany and work to say in Poland and I have fulfillment on warehouse in Germany, to sell it from there, yeah, because like
Yes, we see it a
it's
lot. Yeah.
it's not a problem. It's like we can have the same day dispatch, yeah, even if you sell. But as I understand, then you have these problems to serve Allegro Smart, to serve the impulse of
Mhm.
the parcel lockers, because usually the merchants from the fulfillers, sorry, or 3PLs from the, let's say, Germany are not integrated with that solutions. Or am I wrong?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's what we are observing. Yeah. So, like there is no coverage of preferred delivery methods, and usually the service is still pretty slow. It's rarely next day delivery or even 2 working days deliveries from 3PL in Germany to Poland. Um, and yeah, it's not localized. There's no like free return or shipment that we provide, for example, as part of Smart.
Okay.
Can I add just one thing to what Rutger said?
Of course. Let's
Regarding barriers. So I would say that because when does it make most sense to introduce new selection to a market? Either when it's more price competitive or when it's new to the market. So I have to say Polish market is pretty price competitive. So I think if you wanna compete on selection that is already available, it's good to see if you can keep the prices at least on par with the other suppliers. And the other thing is regarding new selection. From my experience, the sellers sometimes underestimate a bit of investments that are required for the discovery mechanism. So in case of Allegro, this is ads, but if you're running your own store, it could be, as well Instagram or Facebook ads or any other channel. So we see that there needs to be some, or in ideal scenario, there would be some investment at the start to, to spread the word, to build the awareness of the good. Unless it's a situation that brand is already well known worldwide, but not available yet in Poland. But it's not that frequent situation. Yeah.
That's right. That's a rare case, let's say, yeah. And in fact, when already product is on the market, then we are competing with the price, which is quite, I think, hard to the Western merchants to compete with the price with the Polish merchants, right? Or not? Or this
Yes,
is
but
just
it happens. Like for
it happens.
example,
Okay.
bikes, the category of bikes, we often see Like, first of all, we don't have the high-end specialized bikes available in Poland, and then we see customers often, ordering them through German websites. It's just an example of one
Okay.
category, but if any German bike sellers are listening to us, I would love to invite them to Allegro.
Okay. Bikes are specific
Because
category, yeah, because there
yeah,
are
very
because
specific.
people buying with emotions a lot, yeah, the bikes, and they like the brands. I know because I'm riding the bikes a lot, so this type of guy.
Where did you buy yours?
From Germany. That's yeah. I think it was the Canon. Yeah, at that time it wasn't possible to
Yeah.
buy it in Poland. Canyon.
I think people still buy Canons via German websites.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there is
exactly.
opportunity to sell them directly.
Yeah. And this brings us to Tim. This is the perfect bridge because Tim, I wanted to ask you about we started to discuss the categories a little bit, yeah, and the type of products. So, from your experience in base, because you serve a lot of transactions, and you have this base index, maybe you can tell a little bit about what is base index also, because it's quite important in Polish e-commerce market. But the question, the specific categories of buying behaviors in Poland that differ from the Western Europe, yeah, that can actually favor the new entrant.
Yeah, so at Base, we have around about 30,000 customers worldwide. And I already said we have 20 years of experience. So we helped a lot of sellers already cross markets from west to east, from east to west, both ways. And so, yes, there's a lot of experience behind that. And yes, consumer buying patterns in Poland, Czechia, Romania, they differ from Western Europe. They're driven by a higher emphasis on value and a greater share on spending on basic necessities that we're seeing, and specific dominant local e-commerce platforms. All right. While Western European allocates more to service and luxuries, these CEE markets are more characterized, what we're seeing in base, by price-sensitive customers, just like Anna also said, a rapidly growing mobile first sector and a strong preference for local high-quality products. There are actually two specific buying categories and some key trends that I can highlight here that are based on the data that we're seeing. The first category, it's high volume purchasing categories that we're seeing. Electronics, home appliances. These are major e-commerce categories in the region. In Romania, electronics and appliances, they dominate what we're seeing on the base platform. In Poland, with Allegro leading, there's a strong demand for consumer electronics, for smartphones, white goods with specialized, localized e-tailers, and they're competing heavily in the market as well. Fashion and apparel, while both are popular, the purchasing is booming in Poland and Czechia. In Poland, what we're seeing is 47% of online shoppers, they purchase clothing, and 65% they purchase shoes. In Czechia, fashion is the leading e-commerce category with a focus on hobby and products. When it comes to the more broader trends that we're seeing, there are differentiators in customer habits. One is extreme price sensitivity or value hunting, how we're calling it. Consumers in the region versus Western Europe, they're more likely to compare prices, switch brands for better value. So it's much faster. There's a much faster turnover. Over 70% of Polish shoppers use comparison tools before purchasing, for example. They're demanding a smart shopper approach. And base from a feature perspective, we also have a repricer as part of the offering, and that can definitely also support here, especially in the more pricing sensitive markets. There's a lower private label penetration in the market. And contrary to the expectations, CE consumers are less likely to buy store brand products than those in Western Europe. For example, what we're seeing is like that 25% versus 36% in Western European markets. They're tending to prefer, but more rapidly switch between the branded and lower priced options. The second-hand market or the pre-loved market, that's also a trend that we're seeing. It's actually not unique to the CEE region. We also see that in Western Europe with a lot of elements that are popping up due to the economic pragmatism that is also well established in the CEE region. There's a high acceptance for secondhand goods, which is growing faster as a trend, also in terms of sustainability and affordability. There are strong local e-commerce players. Unlike Western Europe, where Amazon dominates, like I mentioned, Poland is dominated by Allegro, which plays a strong role in the rest of CEE2. There are other marketplaces like eMAG, for example, as well competing, but they're like a runner-up to the current setup. And in fashion, beauty, electronics, there's no way around them in the region. The third element that we're seeing is when it comes to key differences by country. In Poland, we have the highest e-commerce maturity in the region. That's why we're also saying Poland as a gateway to CE today. A high mobile penetration of more than 75%. There's a strong demand for natural beauty products, for home goods, for auto parts. That are also very strong on base. Czechia has a high online spending on specialized hobby products like furniture, also toys that Anna mentioned. Romania is the fastest growing digital market. And if we look at macroeconomic data, it jumped from 17 to 60% in e-commerce penetration in just 10 years. So that's a rapid market development, and there's a high demand for imported and high quality products.
Okay, so it's very interesting, especially thank you for the exact data. So indeed, so is it true if we will assume that when entering the region, the strategy could be a little bit different on each market, even though we can treat it as a one hub, but you mentioned that there are little bit different categories of products in different markets, right? So they ask also for different strategy, right?
Absolutely, and that's also what we recommend yes, CEE is a region, so is Western Europe, so are other regions across the world as well, but we talk about single countries, and single countries are always a little bit special, and there are always slight differences even between countries that are very similar, like Germany and Austria, Switzerland to its part, just like the CEE region. So it's a market by market approach, and if you truly want to be successful in a region like that, you pick partners that know the region pretty well in order to help you get a boost, especially at the start where the market knowledge or the country knowledge is not that well established in your own company.
Okay, so that was the raw data, let's say, and Rutger. So can you share some concrete cross-border success, like from the Western merchants that entered the CE or Poland or Czech or Czechia, and they are still there and they have a success?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are really plenty, but let me cut it down to two. Otherwise, this podcast will probably take a long time. Example for both solutions. One is based on fulfillment. It's a shoe manufacturer from Germany, and that now has local Polish fulfillment. So that also means that the orders there that come in will also be sent to parcel machines if consumers like that, right? The thing that we discussed previously. And this also really raised the sales. So before the delivery time was a bit longer, costs were a bit higher, but now there is a really, really good local option. And within fashion, also within shoes, there's a high return percentage. So it's now also less costly and it's way quicker than returning that to Germany because now it can be done in Poland itself and the products don't leave Poland anymore. So that's the fulfillment one. And for the local customer care, I can give you an example of a Dutch company that manufactures and sells plastic sheets. And this is quite, they have quite a lot of products, and these products are for like handyman, handywoman also, right, that want to do something with their housing or so. So there's quite some expertise necessary from personnel, and that is then also done best over phone by local people that have the knowledge, that have the expertise, that can help consumers on what size do they need, what material of plastic do they need, and that also even leads often to upsells. So giving the right recommendation and the right advices leads to trust, and that also leads in this case very often to of course a good conversion, but also to upsells. So I think these are two very nice examples of how localized fulfillment or customer care can really help merchants.
We already discussed a little bit about fulfillment, but you mentioned the customer care case, and this brings me to the question, because now in the world of AI, and that we can do some things easier, cheaper, and so on. So looking at that, because it's tempting, let's say, okay, let's focus on logistics and customer care. We can do it with our own team, for example. That's one of the model, and use AI. And from your experience and from your clients, because you are in direct contact with the clients, is it work, or it depends, or the local customer care is a must? What would you say?
I really feel indeed that it depends, to be honest, because if you have local customer care, I definitely think that the consumers can be helped in the best possible way because there will not be a language barrier. And definitely if you want to go to a new country in CEE and you have a local phone number with local people and picking up the phone, I think that builds trust, especially when you're a new brand to a new market. If you would then have voice AI taking on calls, not sure if that will happen if you're an unknown brand, right? Help. Why I do then still state it depends, that in cases that you would solely focus on marketplaces, often don't have to offer phone support as a merchant, then it might be that using the right translation tools that you would be able to answer the question with a very good quality in a short period of time, because most of the marketplace consumer questions are often about the facts, right? Where's my order, or where's my return? So that's not there's not really product advisory necessary or really deep product knowledge. So I think that's it. But yeah, Anna, really interested to hear from your side if you also feel that's correct or that you see it differently.
I fully agree. I feel like the majority of questions we are observing, for example, in Czechia, from Czech customers to Polish sellers, those are questions around order or invoicing. They can be easily sorted out with our automatic translation tools, which we provide. Of course, there are sometimes product advisory questions, but they're not that frequent. And as you said, Rutger, it's in my view nice to have, but I wouldn't say it's a major blocker, especially if product is low ASP or standardized one. You will not receive many product-related questions if you're selling, I don't know, dishwasher powder.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, that's true. But if we come to the looking at the customer experience, let's say, because we are now talking about the case when you sell on Allegro, let's say, and a quite simple product, yeah. But what do you think, guys, if you have a marketplace, own shop, and other channels, yeah? If then, because companies in the US are really keen on customer experience, right? And because there is no much space to compete now, I mean, in terms of pricing, we can compete also on customer experience, which is logistic, customer care, and that kind of stuff. Is it important still in Poland, or maybe it's still not, to compete on the customer experience with other merchants, other sellers?
I think you touched upon the key thing in that dilemma. Like, what is your strategy, right? Because if a store strategy is to provide superior service and it often comes with higher prices, then yes, right? If it's based on a product advisory. But I would say if your strategy is to undercut competitors or offer lower prices, then Polish customers are, in my view, so creative and entrepreneurial that if you offer a significant pricing advantage, they will find advice via AI or any other channel. So again, depends on your whole package and value proposition as a store. Are you, price leader and let's say your service is just basic, or you want to invest in that?
Mhm.
It's hard to answer that question
Of course.
in a manner that, A
Yeah.
or yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Uh, we checked what is the common question entrepreneurs or the e-commerce managers ask when they thinking about the cross-border expansion. Yeah? And as natural, the one of the first question is what market to choose. Yeah, because this the yeah, I have some products and what market to choose. So and also when we talk to people on conferences, this is where it starts and it's the hardest question: what market to choose for our products, our strategy, how to adapt strategy. So and Anna, when looking at Allegro, because people always ask that, which categories on Allegro currently offer the best opportunity for Western European merchants, especially those coming, for example, from Germany and Netherlands? Is it possible to answer that question?
uh,
Tough one.
such a difficult question, because Allegro is like more than 15 billion euro business, right? There are sometimes hours when we make more than several million per hour,
Mhm.
euro per hour. So I think if we are talking about, depends on the size, right? If you are like a major seller of tires in Europe, then probably you have to look at saturation of the market, etc. But if you're pretty small business, you're aiming to make a couple million euro turnover per year, then I think in every category on Allegro you can find space if you're either price competitive or your product is unique. Of
Okay.
course, there are some categories which are now accelerating, like supermarket or health and beauty, because the adoption of the market is accelerating in those categories. People are becoming more open towards buying supermarket or health and beauty items online. And I think this is happening like all over in the region. It's not Allegro specific. It's just those categories. The adoption of online came there a bit later versus, for example, electronics.
Mhm.
But honestly, in terms of what I observe in Allegro, I think the product quality or price is far more important than the category itself, unless we talk about some really big company. Then you can be successful in every category.
Okay. Okay.
But not to avoid also this question directly from Germany, we have a lot of successful sellers in home and garden, in electronics, a bit in sports, also some fashion brands. So this is what I'm mostly observing.
So it's a little bit like what we discussed before. So it's a little bit about the strategy,
Yes.
pricing, type of product, yeah, and if you think that wise, then it could be successful. So there
But
are.
also,
Mhm.
I think the equation is also opportunities against the cost, right? So
Yes.
how much you have to invest to start selling. So the benefit of starting on Allegro is that it's fairly easy. You just, you can connect via API, easily upload. We have a huge product catalog, so you upload your goods and you can have automatically set up all the delivery methods or the payment methods. Everything that is loved by Polish customers is on Allegro, and then you're basically ready to go. Yeah, so that's we try to lower as much as possible. Also, that's second part of equation. So the opportunity versus the
Hmm.
cost.
Hmm. Okay. So I will try to attack this question from different angle. So,
Mm.
Timo, based on your data, which CE markets are currently most expansion ready, and they are this second part of equation, yeah, where in your opinion there is the best return, could be the best return of the investment, yeah, when you choose the
Yeah.
market. So in terms of logistics maturity, cross-border demand, and that kind of dimensions, yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit on Anna's point. Again, this is not exclusive to Western European companies. It tackles basically all the companies that want to expand on the partner level. The easier they can work with the partners, the easier they can connect with the partners, the more successful they will be because they are faster, right? When you look at Allegro, that's easy. When you look at Base, right now, We have around about 350 marketplaces all across the globe that you can use. If you connect to our tool, Allegro is of course one of the big players in the CE market that we work with. Coming to your question, when we look at CEE, Poland is definitely the most mature e-commerce market in the CEE region. It's the logic go-to for Western European companies, also because it's close to the border, but also in terms of the logistics and cross-border capabilities, right? Poland serves, from our perspective, as a central hub for the region. They're featuring highly advanced infrastructure. They're dominating the regional e-commerce marketplace. Poland has the highest internet penetration with, according to the sources out there, 94% in the area, which is very impressive, and a highly developed transportation network, including major international airports that you need, seaports that you need for your logistics, and extensive rail networks that you will also need in order to transport your goods, depending on what you're selling. Poland acts as a strategic bridge as well between Western Europe and the rest of CEE, with significant warehouse spaces, just like you guys, particularly in the region bordering Germany, which then allows for fast and high volume cross-border transportation and distribution. The market is highly advanced in terms of last mile delivery, parcel lockers that we touched on already a couple of times, and high consumer expectations for fast and free shipping, which is actually kind of similar to Western European standards.
Especially this logistic part, because Rutger, correct me if I'm wrong. We observe in the Salesupply the pattern that, for example, company is starting, like German company, is starting fulfillment in Poland to serve the fulfillment operation in Poland. But of course, it's the main volume is in Germany, yeah, because it's a home market. Yeah. But after some time, they move the goods to the Polish fulfillment, let's say on the west border, and they serve the German volume from the Polish fulfillment. Yeah. Because they have exactly, yeah, right, the similar KPIs, yeah, in terms of deliverability, yeah, cutoff and so on, right?
Yeah, indeed. The quality of Polish fulfillment companies is very good, and very logically, they are located very close to the German border, and time-wise, they can very often ship very quickly throughout Germany, and of course, there is still some difference within the hourly rates for personnel, so that's why they can offer very attractive rates. So that is something we also see more and more. Yeah.
We have this huge I think Amazon fulfillment center near Szczecin, right? So at the German border, and then we have also another one recently opened from Shein near Wrocław. So yeah, it confirms global giants are applying that strategy as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's usually that the big start and then the smaller companies are following. Okay, so so this is about the logistics.
If I may add one thing to that,
That's of course.
So when it comes to serving the cross-border logistics at Allegro, this is something we have really optimized in the last year, and it's super easy. So if you set up your account as a seller in Poland, with just several clicks, you can be sending your goods to Slovakia, Czechia, Hungary. We subsidize those deliveries, so they're really attractively priced, and also we take care of returns. They're hugely discounted. So this is via Allegro. It's really easy right now to serve the region because we have those integrated logistic channel across all the countries where we are in.
Yeah, this is also why this is the topic of this podcast. That this is, if you are in Poland, I mean, it will be not wise to not try to expand to the other countries like Czech, Slovakia, Romania, Hungary, because logistically wise, if you have a fulfillment in Poland, is it in Allegro, is it in Salesupply, doesn't or other 3PL, it's a standard, right?
Yes, although let's also not paint to offer rosy pictures, of course, there are some obligations, right? You need to meet. So, like, you need to be careful with VAT.
Of
And
course.
then there is a local EPR, so extended producer responsibility obligation. So there are several tax and legal obligations that you need to fulfill to be able to export in the whole region. Some product compliance differences, they are not huge, but there are some, dishwashing powder you can sell in Germany, this you cannot in Poland. Some ingredients are forbidden here and there. Local labeling also is important, but it's when we do research on exporting partners and non-exporting, I would say that the perceived barriers are far higher versus the real barriers. So when we compare those two groups of partners, we can see that the non-exporters perceive, for example, compliance, VAT, EPR issues as high, but the ones who export, they say it's manageable. And we have a lot of companies in Poland who also specialize in streamlining any VAT challenges that you may have, or any other legal ones.
Yeah, maybe picking up on that one, that's actually one of the most common mistakes in go-to-market, that you just do too much in the beginning. That's also why we're saying, okay, Poland is the natural go-to. It's the hub for the region. Go there first, learn the market, learn the market language, the culture, and then take the next step, because the next step, just like Anna said, it will bring certain barriers with it, certain details with it, where you need to adapt again. If you do that too many times at once, you won't get anywhere. So it's like a market by market approach. It's definitely the right way to go.
I love this advice, Timo. Yeah, I would totally, subscribe for it. Yeah.
That's true. Especially that, I mean, a lot of these obstacles you meet, if you will expand to France or Spain, or you need to do them, VAT and, other kinds of stuff. So
It's
I
the
think
same
the
thing,
first
yes.
market is the hardest, yeah?
Yes, exactly. We observed that once you start to be an exporter to any country, the model of replicating that for other countries is really easy. So most of our sellers are either exporting to the whole region or non-exporting at all. Yeah, so I totally agree with what you said, Damian.
Yeah, we also observed that there is a first market then from our, let's say, from Polish merchant and the Germany, yeah, and then after 1 year or two, then another. But who are better and faster, yeah, than earlier on the market, yeah, that's also. But as I understand, also you need to, first make a case of investment in one market, then you can go to another one, yeah, probably. Okay. So, Rutger, if merchant wants to test CAE without overcommitting, yeah, in the investment, in the costs, in the involvement, so what would be the smartest first step from operational point of view for the merchants from Western Europe if they were to expand to Poland, for example?
Yeah, I think that's really in line with what we have discussed so far, that if you, as a merchant, really want to test the water first, a smart move from this year onwards could be a marketplace first strategy. So you use the local giants and you don't directly start launching your own web shop. You can always do that later, right? Why we see that works, that if you do this, working with a local marketplace giant, you directly have the infrastructure ready. So if you would sell, for example, via Allegro, you have directly Poland covered. You then also could think of other ones, EMAG in Romania, Hungary, or Bulgaria, or you also have one called ALSA in Czech Republic, and that some also have their own fulfillment programs. So then you can just directly tap into that. Then you also have the very big advantage that consumers already trust these marketplaces. So they buy from there already. They probably already have an account from there. And the marketplace is fully localized. So they offer the local payment preferences. They have the parcel lockers in Poland. Everything is integrated. So you are really profiting from that. So it's a very low risk. The only thing that you would then need to do is to ship a small inventory to the marketplace. And in the end, they take it from there, right? You can see if it sells. If it doesn't sell, you haven't done too much investments. if it is successful, then of course your next step could be to enhance the product assortment with your marketplace partner. Maybe even try other marketplaces such as Kaufland, for example. Maybe you could then also launch your own localized web shop. And then in terms of setup, at one point a merchant could then also decide to start working with a local fulfiller and local customer care, right? Where I'm again preaching a little bit for my own, but that could be a setup later on when it has shown to be successful.
I think we've seen in the Salesupply really every attempt, the big bank, the slow, the I remember the customer once who opened a big one. I will not mention the name, from Germany or from Holland, and they opened 5 markets at once. Like
Wow.
day 0, 5 markets, 1 fulfillment. I think it was based in Poland, by the way. But the problem wasn't fulfillment. The problem was customer care at that point, because it was choked. The second line, of the customer care. So with all the questions. So we saw big bank, we saw the slow, step by step. Which was best is always, it depends. Yeah. And Anna, based on your experience, so what are the most common mistakes EU sellers make when they entering Allegro, but maybe not only, also the Poland, from the GTM perspective, Allegro specifically, because you are from Allegro, but what the common mistakes, that merchants made from your perspective, your experience?
So I think the first mistake I already mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, which is not adapting logistics to local requirements and having too of a weak logistics value proposition. Unless your product is that unique or superior, and that still customers will tolerate. For example, only having one courier delivering those goods. Then the other one I think I also mentioned a bit is not investing into awareness and some visibility at the beginning. The third, I would say, not adjusting the price strategy. We also referred to that a bit in the conversation today, that Poland is, and CE in general, is pretty price competitive market. So I would say those are the main 3 from my perspective.
Okay. And when you're looking at the numbers now, Timo and Anna, is it a good moment to enter CE? Is it that you see the more Western European companies, sellers joining Allegro or other channels, or so is it already a wave, or it's just like slowly dropping? What would you say?
Yeah, maybe before we get to the drop or the wave, picking up on what Rutger just said, that's basically textbook, right? So how you build your e-commerce business and how you grow at scale and how you become bigger and bigger, more marketplaces, more markets, more countries, more products, etc. What we're seeing, and we have a lot of those customers, is that once you've built such a big setup and you're represented in, let's say, 20 marketplaces, for example, at some point, it becomes really hard to manage because you just don't have the time to log into each and every marketplace to make sure that your fulfillment is happening. You need partners that can actually bring everything together, where you manage your e-commerce stack basically from a one-stop shop solution, or as close to it as you can get, because then that allows you as a business owner then also to focus on your business, on your product development, on your market development, on your GTM strategy, and you're not locked in admin work, right? So that's also something that we're highly advising the companies that we work with. And luckily, almost all of the names that Rutger just mentioned, they're in base, so you can connect from the system to everything, and it can actually help you semi-automate or fully automate your business, right? When we look at Western Europe and the question if it's a good time, To enter CEE, that's a very obvious question. Yes, it is, with everything that we've just mentioned here in the podcast. It's a very good time for Western European companies to enter the CEE region. The region is experiencing high velocity growth. They're serving as a critical expansion zone where cross-border is becoming a necessity rather than a nice to have. And while Western European markets are becoming saturated in many areas of the e-commerce industry, the CEE region offers significant faster growth. So the expansion play is definitely one of the strong factors here. And with e-commerce in countries like Poland, Romania, Czech Republic, Hungary, everything we mentioned today, they're showing double-digit year-on-year growth. Just like Anna said in the beginning, yes, we hear that and we see that as well. In the Western European countries, you usually talk about single digit. There are players that grow double digit, but those are the exceptions. CE e-commerce is experiencing tremendous growth. They're digitally adopting much faster than in other regions of this world. It shows that Eastern Europe is actually leading the continent in terms of the growth. And again, the Western European markets, they're a little bit saturating. So if you're interested in long-term development and long-term security of your business, you have to take that step. You have to take the leap.
I agree with Timo, definitely. That from perspective of Allegro, the cross-border trade is accelerating. I would say there are many factors contributing to that. One is that the growth indeed plateaus in the West, but I also think some other factors play into that. So the logistics are increasingly better developed. There are, with AI and automation, there are a lot of companies who can make your life easier with fulfilling different product compliance or other legal obligations. Also a bit, I would say that, for example, Chinese companies like Temu, they have shown that you can be bold in your expansion and go to multiple markets at once. So they also established a bit of a standard of thinking that indeed you can rapidly expand. And I think all those factors contribute to like increasing cross-border trade. Also, Timo, you have solutions in base, right? Like super merchant, which I think is pretty innovative one. I know other companies doing that as well. So allowing you to sell in multiple places without really getting into hands-on operations.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the key elements and one of the really cool things, we're doing a lot of cool things, but one of the very cool things is Super Merchant. Super Merchant will also be part of the materials that we're putting together after this podcast, so people can educate themselves also on what that actually is. The Super Merchant program sells the products. They're already pre-connected to over 50 marketplaces. They're selling the products for the customer. So the customer that's really like hands off in that case. It's one of the elements that Western European companies can try if they plan a go-to-market motion in CEE, in Poland, in a single country of CEE, where they don't have to have such a high involvement into the details. They can really test the waters with very limited risk of like creating an overhead and establishing an entity and establishing operations in those countries. That would be the next step then, for example, because Super Merchant is also not exclusive. So if you sell, let's take this example, your products via Super Merchants on Allegro, you can still do it yourself on Allegro as well. So it becomes like a win-win situation. It's mutual beneficial.
Okay, so this is like a merchant of record service for
Exactly.
for
Exactly.
the companies. And yeah, we see that also that there are some companies who are eager to do that way, do bother about the investment in operations, but just give a little bit more margin, but don't have these operational problems. Yeah.
Yes, that's also one of the way you can expand, right? So beyond Super Merchant, I just recently met several other companies, offering merchant of record services. For example, for the US sellers willing to sell in Europe. So again, this is another factor that it's making it easier just to trade internationally. Those companies are just popping out now, and I feel like there's a lot of innovation going on in this cross-border space.
That's true. The CE, as especially Polish market, becomes more mature in terms of logistics, payment. It's a little bit like we observe it because, for example, as a sales supply, we are in Italy from I don't know how many years, but I think 15 or more. And before Amazon came to Italy, if you ordered through the e-commerce, you weren't sure if the package will come to you. That's why people mostly ordered with the cash on delivery, because they didn't want to invest the money in the buying before they reach. But Amazon came and they raised the quality. Yeah, so you ordered from Amazon and the product was the next day at your door, and then the market became more mature. Yeah, and also for the cross-border sellers, it makes sense to expand. And this is a little bit in Poland also. The cash of delivery, if you look at the 10 years ago, it was like most popular way, of buying the
Still
goods.
fairly popular
Yes.
in Czechia, actually.
In Czechia, true. But in Poland now, as Ludger mentioned, BLIK, and it's very specific for Poland, by the way, the BLIK. Yeah. So you can pay with your mobile phone only with the code. So I think we are more mature now. Okay, so the cat sign. Okay, I think this podcast, its goal was to highlight the topics a little bit on the entry level, right? So we went through a lot of topics and we touched the surface. So if you would like to hear more, let us know about that, and we will try to go deep into the other topics. But for now, I think we can slowly finish the podcast. But before we do that, maybe Anna, Timo, Rutger, some few words at the end from each of you.
So thank you again for the invitation, and I would love to invite all the sellers who are listening to us to start selling in the CE. As we said, it's a big and dynamically growing market, and with Allegro, you can have a quick start in this region, and we also offer welcome programs to the sellers. So again, I would love to invite you to join us in the CE.
Thank you.
So overall, the CE region offers a robust opportunity for the Western European companies, especially those who can tailor their operations to the specific digital and logistical habits of the CE customer in the single countries, which we at BASE can absolutely support with. We have roots in the region. We were actually one of the first companies, I believe, that were on Allegro once Allegro opened up. And yes, we also do have welcome packages for all the sellers that are listening to the podcast. And I also wanted to say special thank you to Anna, to Damian, to Rutger for the podcast today. That was fun.
It was very also interesting for me, not only fun, I must admit. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, then I will close it down. Also, thanks to everyone here within the podcast. It was very nice to have this chat. The final thing I would like to highlight is that we at Salesupply also come from a background of market advisory. So we have helped a lot of our customers also with advisory. Okay, what to think of when entering a new market, what to do VAT wise. And we have partners for specific topics and other topics we can help you directly with. And as CEE is a great expanding region, we are more than happy to help you as a merchant to define the best strategy, and therefore indeed please reach out to Damien or myself, and I think that's it.
Great, thank you for this summary. Thank you for watching. You can find links to the materials in the description. And have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Babra.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Damien.